the special assistant to the president, Ja'Ron Smith. Ja'Ron, what about the reforms that the president is pushing? What is he going to do?
So we had three pillars of our reform. One was to make sure that every police department across the country has the highest standards. Those standards are accredited and certified by these independent credentialing bodies. Those standards include standards around use of force, standards around training, and also standards around community and police relations. Mm-hmm. And so we want to leverage our DOJ funding and encourage every police department to get certified and have those high standards. Mm-hmm. We think that if that happens, you have less likelihood of police and community relations being terrible. And then two, you have safer communities. And that's proven by certain communities. The other two pillars include de-escalation training and creating a database that would house all the police officers who have, after going through, of course, the appropriate due process, received bad markings for excessive force or any other type of behavioral issues, so that they can't jump around from police department to police department, because we know that no one hates a bad cop more than a good cop. And so we want to protect those good officers' names. And then lastly, which is a really big reform, is a co-responder program, which would allow for us to invest into social workers going out on the beat with law enforcement for cases dealing with individual mental health issues, drug addiction, or someone who's homeless. Mm-hmm. And so those are some core pillars. Of course, the president would want some additional flexibility and want to work with Congress to see if we could cement some of those reforms. But that's what was listed in our executive order and what we're focused on now.
Ja'Ron Smith is my guest, Deputy Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy. Ja'Ron, why didn't we see these kinds of protests during the 8 years that President Obama was in charge? We had a lot of high-profile deaths, and the Obama administration, DOJ, made a big display of investigating and threatening to file civil rights actions. To my knowledge, not a single time did the Obama administration file a civil rights action against any of these cops, despite their rhetoric.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't know them of doing anything substantive. Even with their police reform report, only 15 police departments out of 18,000 adopted them. Mm-hmm. Because I think the way he approached it wasn't really working with law enforcement, and so it didn't really help the situation. This is why our situation, our approach is a little different, a lot different, because we think working with law enforcement we can get more change than working against them. And plus, the president has always been very supportive of law enforcement and has built trust with them. And so since we have that trust, I think we have a unique opportunity to do something that hasn't been done before by creating better police-community mm-hmm. relations.
It just seems really odd, Ja'Ron, that these kinds of protests didn't take place when Obama was in office. My feeling is that but for President Trump being in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we might not be seeing these kinds of protests.
Well, I will say that it probably wasn't on the scale that you see now. There certainly were some protests, and you certainly didn't have this Antifa element that's leveraged these type of protests to do a anarchist agenda and tearing down certain cities. That certainly wasn't happening up until the Trump administration. Mm-hmm.
Ja'Ron Smith has been my guest. He's a Deputy Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, Deputy Director of the Office of American Innovation. Ja'Ron, when are you going to write your book? Everybody writes a book.
Right now, I think I'm focused on doing the work of the people. There's still a lot of work to be done. These historic disparities that exist as it relates to access to capital, as it relates to health disparities, are critical. And there's no time better than ever than to work on them now and get those done. So that's my priority for the moment.
Ja'Ron Smith has been my guest, again, Deputy Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy. Ja'Ron, thank you very much and good luck.
Thanks so much, sir.
You got it.